The Pharisees seek a sign.
Ooh.
Ooh, everybody's always seeking a sign. Have you ever asked for a sign, mother?
Um, Probably have asked like, a sign that I know I'm doing the right thing or I'm going the right way, that kind of a sign, right? Like confirmation.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think to a certain extent everybody does. I have.
Yeah, in the way you would just want to make sure that you're doing the right, that you're understanding the message correctly.
Right. And I mean, you know the words that are about to be spoken. Should we listen to them?
Should we listen to the words of Jesus?
Is he talking about our generation or is he talking about their generation?
Oh, I think he's talking about both.
Okay.
Yes.
Then the Pharisees came out and began to dispute with him, seeking from him a sign from heaven, testing him.
Oh, and in
You know
case
who
we didn't
doesn't,
say, oh, sorry, we're
you
in
know who
Mark,
doesn't like to be tested?
us,
I think
Jesus.
God.
Yes, that's true. Sorry. And we're in Mark 8, starting at 11, in case I
But if
forgot.
we're made in the image of God, maybe that is true.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Good point.
But he sighed deeply, ah,
I know.
in his spirit, so they couldn't hear him, and said, why does this generation seek a sign? Assuredly, I say to you, no sign shall be given to this generation. No
Mm,
sign.
no, sorry. And
So,
oh, and then he dropped the mic and turkey.
right. And he left them, getting into the boat again, departing to the other side. He said, oh my goodness.
They're asking again. I don't think it was the first time. Maybe.
Well, it's like the people who may or may not like know or not, like, sure, you can ask for a sign. But
Right.
like the fifth, do you even believe what you teach? Why are
Right.
you
That
asking
is
for a sign?
right. And they're not really asking in good faith, are they?
Right.
They they're asking they began to dispute with him, seeking from him a sign, testing him. So they're not really,
He's like, if you really who you say you are, you better show us.
yeah,
You better show us a sign, dude.
you gotta show us a sign.
He said, you want a sign, bro? You ain't get no sign. And he left.
Yep. Now let's see what happens.
Now
Oh.
the disciples had forgotten to take bread, and they did not have more than one loaf with them in the boat. And you wonder how all those people went hungry the last two times. It starts from the top, you know? It starts from the top, and we're supposed to be role models.
And they forgot to bring the bed. I know. Well, I've forgotten many times.
All right. Then he charged them, saying, take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, it is because we have no bread. Oh no, we've upset him. We forgot the bread.
I know. They're like he's on a different topic.
We made him mad.
Yeah, and because they are feeling guilty about the bread, right?
I think so.
And just in mine it says leaven. It has a side note that it's yeast in case the word leaven is now,
Beware of the things you let grow inside of you.
yeah, the yeast or the leaven, yes. But Jesus answered them.
But Jesus, being aware of it, said to them, why do you reason because you have no bread, silly child? Do you have, do you not yet perceive nor understand? Is your heart still hardened?
Mhm.
Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember? I think that's the part that gets me, is the remembering.
Yeah, I know, because he's going to tell them what this should be remembering, right?
Well,
And
this part, like, where at least I would start to see, like, he's like, you guys still don't understand, still don't hear. It's like they're just not understanding what he's teaching.
right. And that's what when you said about the generation. I mean, there was the time in Moses, God took him through the Red Sea, he fed them manna, and then they go into the promised land and they forget that God was so good to them, and that he
Right.
led them and you can trust them. And so that's but even for me, do I, forget and start complaining, even though that I know God has led me in the past and he's going to lead me again, he's going to guide me, you know.
Right.
So I think unfortunately we're all like the disciples.
Well, I think if you're able to remember, like, the overall plan or the fact that you have faith or the fact that, like, you
Yeah,
shouldn't be fearful, like, if you're able to remember that, there's no, like, transpiring or doubt.
right. We
Like, you're
yeah,
not misstepping because, like, you remember last time you misstepped. You remember what happened. You remember what it felt like
exactly. And
to
right. So even there you remember what God did, right?
well, apparently they didn't because
They
I
did.
mean, look, it's not at the end of the day, it's not about the bread, right?
Yes.
And in a very shallow reasoning, it is about the bread, right? Because you're forgetful. How could you, there's 12, 13 of us, and you forgot food?
Right.
What happened to the seven low, like the seven baskets we just had?
Right.
You couldn't bring one of them with us?
Oh yeah.
So, like, at a very simple reasoning, yeah, absolutely, it's about the bread. But is it about the deeper things that Jesus is gonna talk to them about? Be right, because you don't need to belittle them because of the bread. They know they messed up. They would have wanted the bread and fish as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's like they still don't understand. They
Right.
still like, how are you? And it's like, I don't know. Maybe some people just reset every day, and it's like
I
maybe
know.
that's
Well,
how
there
it
is
needs
a
to go.
part
But
of
I don't know.
maybe. Wow, that was pretty deep, John.
You got
I
to
think that,
remember, you got to hold yourself accountable. You got to do something.
yes, we might reset every day. I mean, mercies are new every day, but do we kind of forget if we don't remind ourselves, right?
Right. And then you give yourself allowances, and then those two things get mixed. I mean, look, I know it happens, and everybody's done it. It's
Right.
like,
So let's
how do you
see. Yeah.
stop doing it?
Wow.
Yeah.
And
So when he said, when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets full of fragments did you take up? They
because
said to him, what?
they had physically done that, they
Right.
physically seen it and physically took up the basket.
Right.
When you physically do, it's easier to remember that too sometimes, obviously.
Well, then maybe at some point, who knows? Maybe this is just looking too into it, but like,
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know. Is it wrong to rely on somebody so much to like forget about your own need
So
to a
are
point where it becomes a burden on another person? Because think about like if you're just not remembering to bring bread because Jesus can just make bread, are you not being a little bit irresponsible? But given the present circumstances, I guess not. Who
so
knows?
is he what is he saying, because they didn't they're worrying about the bread as opposed to Jesus can make the bread as well. Well, let's see. Let's read it so I don't mess
He
up it.
said, also when I broke the 7 for the 4,000, which just happened, how many large baskets full of fragments did you take up? And they said 7. And so he said to them, how is it you do not understand?
Hmm. So I think he's saying he can multiply
I think
and
it
not
is. I
to
mean, at
worry.
the end of the day, right, is that is what God is and Jesus. is that's what's on the table, right? Is the fact that we don't have to worry about that stuff anymore
Right, exactly.
in order to go follow his thing.
But the leaven of the Pharisees and understanding that, is that what we have to listen to, understand?
But
That's
understanding that what you're thinking makes much more of an impact than what you're eating.
mm, yeah, interesting. Wow.
I mean, do you think it's as literal as that?
As not worrying about the bread, but take heed. Well, he's warning them, right? In 15, I mean, what started, right? He said, take heed, beware of the leaven of the first and the leaven of Herod. So, I mean, obviously, he's telling them to be careful. Is he telling us to be careful
I think
and
always,
not to worry?
but
Yeah. Hmm. Lord Jesus, do we hear? Are we not hearing? And do you not
I don't
remember,
know.
he says in 18. Is your heart still hardened? Lord, help us to be hearing and understanding and remembering correctly what you've done and what you can do, and help us to be aware. Oh, wow, so much to do. Thank you, Lord. Ah, that's a relief. How about you?
Or maybe it's because the Pharisees come, right? They immediately get in the boat, and then he says,
He tells the disciples,
right,
beware.
but paint the picture with me, mother. Understand
Okay,
what I'm trying to do. It's like think of what you would be thinking, or maybe I'm just gonna go full out, blown out right here. But like, if I'm Jesus, right?
so
The
are they
Pharisees are
thinking,
testing me,
yes,
so it's like they're already combative. We just leave them. We're on. That just happened, right? They were there, the
right,
disciples,
yeah,
with me.
yes,
I just
correct,
disputed them. We get in there. The disciples are like, we forgot the bread.
right,
Then he's like, beware of the leaven. So he's talking about the event that had just transpired.
right.
And he's like, you guys are worried about the bread.
So the bread being like that material, physical thing, as opposed to the leaven, more spiritual.
So
Is that
maybe it's the fact
like the material part?
that we're not supposed to worry about.
The bread.
Because if this had gone more ideally, the apostles would have been able to like talk to Jesus about this interaction.
About the interaction with him and the Pharisees, right?
Right.
And
Because if you're gonna embody a sheep, this is a perfect way to do it, right?
like
Like
the
you're
sheep,
watching
the
an
shepherd.
adult having a conversation and you're worried about the bread.
Right.
That's what a sheep does.
Yes, yes. Worrying about his next meal, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like Jesus is now knowingly, like he knows he's gonna die. He knows he has to leave this,
The wisdom and everything. Like he has to prepare the disciples,
I think.
apostles. Yeah. Wow.
I
Hmm.
don't know,
I think that's peaceful.
peaceful.
Lord, peace be with you.